Let me ask you something. How many times this week did someone ask you, how are you? And you answered, busy. You got a full calendar, back to back meetings, to do lists that never end. You collapse into bed exhausted, and you wake up and do it all over again. But have you ever had this question haunt you? Why doesn't any of this feel like enough? You're doing everything you're supposed to, checking every box. You're really productive. So why do you still feel empty? Like you're running on a treadmill, working harder and harder, but never actually getting anywhere that matters. What if all that busyness isn't moving you forward at all? What if it's just keeping you distracted from the one question you're afraid to ask? Is this really what my life is supposed to be about? I get it because I've been there too. I'm Dr. Bev Smallwood, and for over 40 years as a psychologist, I've worked with people who are doing everything right, but feeling everything wrong. And here's what I know: being busy and living with purpose, they're not the same thing. In fact, they're often opposites. Busyness is about filling time. Purpose is about fulfilling what you're here to do. Busyness asks, what's next on my list? And purpose asks, what actually matters? Busyness leaves you exhausted but empty. Purpose leaves you fulfilled even when you're tired. We convince ourselves that if we're just productive enough, organized enough, successful enough, then we'll finally feel that sense of meaning we're craving. But sometimes that day never comes. Maybe you felt it, that nagging sense that you're living someone else's life, doing all you're supposed to do, maybe even doing it with excellence, but missing the point. Doing everything right, but something still feels wrong. Well, you're not broken. You're just living on autopilot instead of on purpose. Let me tell you about Tom. Tom sat in my office. He was 48 years old, successful executive, beautiful family, impressive resume. By every measure, he'd made it. But Tom looked exhausted. His shoulders were slumped and he barely looked at me. I'll never forget what he said. He said, I've been climbing this ladder for 25 years and I just realized it's leaning against the wrong wall. Tom had spent decades being busy, crushing his goals, impressing the people he met, building a career everyone admired and envied. He told me he couldn't remember the last time he did something that actually mattered to him, not just what was expected of him. He'd been so busy being successful, he forgot to ask if he was being faithful to who he really was. And Tom's not alone. Research from Bronnie Ware, who spent years with dying patients, found the top two regrets people have at the end of their lives. The first is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And two, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Think about that. At the end, nobody says, wish I'd checked more emails, or I wish I'd attended more meetings. They say, I wish I'd lived my actual life. So here's what I helped Tom do and what I want to help you do today. First, have a conversation with your 95-year-old self. Seriously, close your eyes and imagine yourself at 95. You're sitting in a rocking chair looking back on your life. What does that version of you want to thank you for? What choices does your older self wish you'd made differently? Would he or she thank you for all those extra hours at work? Or thank you for being present with your family? for taking that risk, for finally pursuing what matters to you. Your 95-year-old self knows what matters. Listen to that person. Second, pay attention to the wake up alarms. Tom had his wake up moment on a random Tuesday. He was in another meeting about quarterly projections or something, and his daughter was texting asking if he'd be home for dinner. Just before he texts back that he couldn't again, he began to remember how often he said no to time with his family, not because of emergencies, just because of busyness. That Tuesday changed everything for Tom. Let me ask you, what are your Tuesday moments? Those ordinary moments that reveal what you're actually prioritizing versus what you say matters. Sometimes I ask my clients to do a time log for a week, and then I ask them to list what they consider really important in their lives. And then we compare those two lists, the way they're actually spending their time versus what they say is important. That comparison says a lot about true priorities. So pay attention to the wake up calls. They're trying to tell you something. Third, don't check your calendar, check your purpose. When someone asks you to take on a project or commit to an event, rather than looking to see if you can fit one more thing into your schedule, ask yourself, how does this align with my purpose? Those things that matter most. We schedule meetings, we have deadlines, appointments, but do we schedule time for what actually feeds our soul, for the people and the pursuits that give our life meaning? Because if it's not on your calendar, well, it's not going to happen. So put it there first, before the meetings, before the busyness. Block out time for what matters and protect it like you would any other commitment, because it is. Look, here's what happens if nothing changes. You keep running, you keep achieving, you keep being busy, and one day you wake up at 60 or 70 or 80 and you realize you built someone else's dream. You lived someone else's values. You checked all the boxes on a list that you never even wrote. And the tragedy isn't that you failed, it's that you succeeded at the wrong thing. May I tell you again, the pain doesn't go away when you stay busy. It's still there and it keeps resurfacing. I don't want that for you. But here's the beautiful thing, it's not too late to change. Tom, he made changes, real ones. He's restructured his work and set some boundaries. He actually started coaching his daughter's soccer team. He got back to the woodworking that he liked. Is his life perfect? No. Is he less busy? Actually, no, he's still busy. But now he's busy with things that matter, busy building a life that his 95-year-old self will thank him for. And you can too. So pick one of these three things. Have that conversation with your 95-year-old self, or identify an alarm that you've been ignoring, one that reveals what you're really prioritizing. Or open your calendar right now and block out time for what matters most. 1 hour, just start there. Do one thing today. Because your life isn't just happening to you, you get to choose what it's about. You don't have to keep running on that treadmill. You can step off. You can choose purpose over busyness starting today. So until we meet here again, I'm Dr. Bev Smallwood reminding you, keep going, keep growing, and you'll come out stronger on the other side. See you next time.